Hello sewing friends, Shawnice is here with another video. Isn't that what they say? This is the beginning of a new tutorial for Vogue 9292. I don't know where the actual envelope is, but I do have my pattern and I have the pattern instructions. I just don't know where the envelope is. Using the pattern instructions, I can show you what the dress looks like. Here it is. View A is the short version. View B is the long version. This is a request from someone who left a comment on the, I think it was, I think I did a muslin for Vogue 9292. And I think it was underneath that video. For the muslin, I used a fabric that had like a sports team on it, a sports team that I did not recognize for the muslin. And then I used some Ankara fabric to make the actual dress, and I made the short version. Now I want to make the long version. So let's go over the pieces you're going to need for this project. You're going to need all the pieces, all the pieces, regardless of whether you're making the short version or the long version. You're going to need all pieces, and that's going to be a total of 10 pieces. One piece is for the dicky, and the dicky is just a little triangle that you can snap to the inside to cover up cleavage for modesty. I made the dicky in the last dress, but I did not add snaps. I just sewed that sucker in the dress. Or you can make the dress without the dicky, and maybe you might want to have a different color tank top on underneath it, or you just want to wear some type of shirt. So let's talk about the fabric. So I don't have the pattern envelope, but I did look up the envelope online, and I know that you can make this out of linen. I used regular cotton. I made it out of Ankara fabric / wax print, or you can make it out of poplin. And I'm not really good at identifying fabrics, and so I don't know if I've ever made something with poplin, because usually I just buy something and I like it by the way that I feel. So I went to the online site that I get my fabric, and I ordered some poplin, and I ordered the polka dots. So this is poplin, and this is the fabric that I'm going to be using to make the dress. Isn't it lovely? I love it. But I've already washed it and dried it, and it's ready to go. I guess I shouldn't ball it up like this, because then it's going to get all wrinkly. So let me quickly kind of just fold this up real quick. So I've already made this dress twice, and I've made the short version, so my patterns have been cut off. So I don't have the long version for the size, but this pattern came with all the sizes. So that means, you know, sometimes a pattern envelope can have a set of sizes in one envelope, and then the larger sizes in another separate envelope, and I'm always in the separate envelope. But this pattern, all of them come together. Okay, I'm gonna talk a little loud because I don't have my mic plugged in, so I hope that's not going to be an issue. So here is the piece that I cut out. So this is the short version, and right here is the long version. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at, so I have some triple notches here that's on the dress. So I'm going to line those up with the triple notches that's on the actual smaller pattern, and I can see where the difference is. So I'm coming down. So the pieces are pretty much the same. The notch right here, it's slightly off. There you go. And so, oops, I'm going to slide this down, and there, here it is. So when I'm looking at the smaller pieces, I can see that the sizes here, so this is 6 to 14. This is one straight line all the way down. So now when I look at my piece here, so it's so it's a little bit wider, but I know, so I'm going to take this part of the pattern, I'm going to extend it all the way down. I'm going to draw this curve in, and then I'm going to extend this line all the way down. And so that's what I'll do for piece 1. I think I'll also do that for piece 2. So on my pattern pieces, I shorten the torso area here because my torso is shorter. So I'll do the same here. I'll compare this. So this is piece number 2. I have piece number 2 here, so let me lay that out. It's a lot of pattern. So now I'm going to take 2 and I'm going to match up the notches on here. So you can see that piece number 2 is slightly wider out here at the underarm. So I'm going to slide this down. I'm going to match up my sides here. And again, the same thing. When you look at the smaller pattern, you can see that the lines go straight down. So there's no alterations as far as do I need to bring this hem together, closer together, or do I need to make it wider? I'm just going to take this, I'm going to go all the way down to this hemline, and I'm going to draw my lines, and that's going to be for piece number 2. So piece number 3, I do not think I have, but it's going to be the same. So piece number 3 is for the center back. So this is my pattern. Whatever length I'm doing for piece 1 and 2, I'm going to do the same thing for piece 3. And then I do have piece 4. This should be the side back. It is. And again, here is my piece that I used and altered. The only thing I did was shorten the torso because it pretty much fit. So I'm matching up my notches. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm matching up my waist. So as you can see, this pattern set is much wider than a smaller size. But when you look at the rest of it, it's the seam lines, straight lines. So I'm going to do that with this pattern too. I'm going to put tissue paper and I'm going to extend. So for the other pieces, I do not have to change because they all concern the upper area of your body. Piece number 5 is the pockets. So you want to cut 2 of these and then 2 in a lining. If you don't want to cut it in a lining, you just cut 4 pieces. So you can cut 2 or cut 2 in a fabric and 2 in a lining, or you can just cut all 4 in the fabric. So that's 5. Piece number 6 to go in order. Let's see, this is not 6. This is piece number 6. So this right here is the front facing. So this is going to be what's on, it's kind of like your V-neck. So it has a little curve. Here's the center front. So our 2 pieces. So if you imagine, there's going to be a piece here and then a piece over here. And so this is that neck part. Let me pull that out here. Piece number 6, the facing is right here. So see how this curves in right here? That's going to be the facing. That's going to be the front facing. And then we have also the back. So let me look at this. What is this? Oh, this is the armhole facing. So you'll need this. So let me go to piece number 6. So this is the back facing. So this is the front facing. So there's going to be one on one side. Let me turn this sideways. Maybe that'll be better. So here's the front facing. So we're going to, this is going to be your head and your neck. So this facing is going to lay like that. And then the other side is going to be here. So this is going to create your V-neck. So see how See how far long this is? And this is where you're closing it up. So all this right here, so this is on this side. So from your shoulder, all this right here, this is your V. And you're going to stitch it together right here. This is where you put the snaps. Okay. Piece number 7 is your back facing. So this goes behind. So now you're going to cut 2 of those. So this goes here. Okay, so here's one side, and then another piece is going to be the other side. And then you have pieces 8 and 9, which is going to be the armhole. So this is the back armhole. This here is the front armhole. That's the armhole. This is to have shaping for your armhole, have stability, so that your armhole is not wobbling everywhere while you're wearing it. So this is going to go to the inside, and then you'll tack it down with some hand stitches. So this is the facing for the armhole. And the last piece right here is the dickie. So you cut it in this one piece, it gets folded in half and stitched, and then right here, this is where it's going to be joined, and then you have areas for your snaps where it gets attached or whatever. However this works. So it's been a while since I've made this pattern, but you just want to cut this out. So you can either cut it out in your actual fabric, or you can cut it out in contrasting fabric. So now, reviewing the pattern. So here we have our pattern. We have view A and B, short version and a long version. So you need all the pattern pieces. And below, you know what? It doesn't say in the instructions, I don't think so, but the bottom part, maybe you might want to add a contrast. Maybe you might want to have like one color here at the top and a different color at the bottom. If you do that, you want to make sure that when you cut your piece, that you add seam allowance. Let me get one of the longer ones. If you do want to have a contrasting color at the bottom, right here is that line. So this is the line where you could cut if you want view A. You can actually take this bottom piece and cut it out in something different, but remember just to add seam allowance to the bottom, to the top of this piece and the bottom of this piece, so that when you sew them together, you have the full length that you need. And you just want to be very meticulous when you do those measurements and when you make those cuts, so that the dress all the way around, that seam where the colors change, you want to make sure that seam area is the same height all the way around. So you don't want to see where one seam might be like a 1/4 inch or inch different than the next panel, because you're going to have all these panels that you have to sew together. So we already have here, we have our grain line, we have all of our pattern markings. Here's the layout here. So if you're going to do the shorter dress, this is how you can lay it out, whether you have 45-inch fabric or you have 60-inch wide fabric. These are the two layouts to maximize your fabric usage. So this star here, or this flower, this means without the fold. So you're just cutting out the pieces flat and you're not cutting it on the fold. For your contrast, here's that for the dickie, if you want the dickie to be a different color. For your interfacing, you're going to want to interface pieces 6, 7, 8, and 9. Again, that's your front, that's your neck, front facing, back facing, and your armhole facings. So you want to cut those. I do block cutting. I do not cut, I used to cut out my fabric in this shape, and then I would cut the interfacing in this shape and then put them together. I just put the interfacing on the fabric in a nice big area chunk, and then I cut all my pieces out, so it's already interfaced before I cut it out. Here's your lining. So this is just for the pocket. So the first thing we're going to do is interface all the pieces. We're going to stitch the fronts together. Step 3 is we're going to stay stitch the fronts on the side. Number 4, we're going to pin the side front sections to the front, clipping the front where necessary. So now we're going to have pieces 1 to pieces 2, clipping where necessary. 5, we're going to pin the back together at the center back. We're going to baste it, and then we're going to stitch, leaving an opening above the large circle. Number 6, zipper. So we're going to need a zipper. So that's for the center back. Then step 7, stay stitch side edges of back along the waistline, above the waistline. So here's the waistline. So we're going to put some stay stitching right along here within the seam allowance. So the seam allowance is 5/8. So whatever inside of there, right along, you want to put some stay stitching, because what you don't want is you don't want this to start moving and to become distorted. Piece number 8, you're going to pin the side back section to the back, clipping the back where necessary. Wants you to baste and stitch. So this instruction for Vogue is saying you're going to pin it, then you're going to baste it, then you're going to stitch it. If you want to skip the basting, you can just pin it and then stitch it. Piece 3 gets stitched to piece 4 right here, all the way down. So this is the center back, this is the side back. Stitching these together. Step 9, pin the back to the front at the shoulders, matching seams and stitch. So we have our shoulder line here, then we have piece 1 and 2. We're going to sew the shoulder here on one side and the shoulder on the other. Step 10, we're going to stitch one pocket section to the back at each side in a 1/4 inch seam, press seam towards the pocket. So where is our side? So here is our side, and these circles are for the pocket. So you're going to have your fabric, stitch one pocket section to the back at the side in a 1/4 inch seam, press towards. Stitch one pocket lining section to the front at each side in a 1/4 inch seam, press seams toward the pocket. So for here, we're going to match up the notches like boom and boom. And we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance and then you're going to press the seam towards the pocket lining. Open it like that, and then we're going to give a press. So we're going to do that 4 times, to the back and then to the front, and then you're going to take the sides together with the side here in the pocket in the bottom, and you're going to stitch, 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 lock stitch, lock stitch, 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 all the way down. Then you're going to come back, lock stitch where the pocket right here, stitch, 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 whoop, pocket, stitch, 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 all the way around. We're going to clip the seams so that our pocket can go to the front. And that's what step number 12 is doing, clipping the seam allowance above the pockets. So that allows your pockets, instead of them sticking out like this with the seam, it's going to easily allow your pockets to be pressed towards the front so that you can put your hands in it. So that's piece 12. And that's what 13 says, press the pocket towards the front along the seam line. And then we move on to the facing. And I'm assuming that's probably where some people need some assistance, is how to deal with this facing. Piece number 4, step number 14, with the 2 facings. You're going to put them together and you're going to stitch right here. Starting at the circle, you're going to lock the stitch. We're going to go to the end and you're going to lock the stitch. You're going to take the front facing and the back facing. You're going to stitch those together, one side and the other. So now you're going to have your back facing and the front facing joined right here in this front, and then over to the other side. And that piece is going to be done. Then you're going to take that and you're going to lie it on top of the V of piece 1. Here's piece 1. Here's the facing. See that? Let me move this out the way so you can see it. Just like that. Now, remember, there's a back, there's a neck, the back of the dress is right here. But you're going to stitch right along here, all the way down. How far does it say to go? Stitch the front to the back at the side seams. So I've done that. 16. Pin the facing to the neck edge, matching the symbols and the seams. Stitch, matching the symbols, shoulder, right here. Here's some squares. Match all those up. Stitch the neck edge, breaking stitches at the large circle, and then you're going to trim. 17. Turn the facing to the inside. So once it's a stitch, this is going to go to the inside, and you're going to tack it at the seams. And if you want to do understitch, which I might do, then that's where you would do that at this time. And then at the back, you're going to slip stitch, because remember, the zipper's in there. We just put the facing, so now we're going to close up that back neck area. Then you're going to top stitch around the whole neck and the V. That's step 19. And then step 20 is sewing the armhole together. Remember, they're already interfaced. So then you're going to take that and you're going to attach this inner part to the dress, to the outside of the dress. So if this is the, here is the this is the back facing and this is the front. Okay, so this is going to be the actual fabric. So we'll say this is the actual, the print is the actual fabric, the back side is the interfacing. Once you have these together, you're going to flip it so that the interfacing is facing out, and you're going to slide this onto your dress so that the pretty side of the facing is going to be touching the pretty side of the armhole. You're going to match up your back notch and your front notch and your shoulder seam and your side seam. Those 4 areas you're going to pin, and then you're going to stitch around there. Once you have that stitched, you're going to turn the facing to the inside, and you're going to tack it in place so it's not moving around. This is going to go on the inside, and then you're going to top stitch your armhole. And the last thing you're going to do is put an eye and hook, or you could put a button or a snap, however you want to finish the back on top of the zipper. And then you're going to hem stitch 25, and that's going to be the whole dress. Bingo bango. So that is the overview of the process. I'm going to have fun. I hope you have fun. I hope you sew this project with me. That's what these tutorials are for. Have any questions? Put it in the comments. You can send me an email. I answer all my emails except for solicitations. Until then, happy sewing. Love.